We are just learning fingerprint comparisons made between prints collected at the scene of the Brian Thompson murder compared with prints taken in the arrest process of Luigi Mangione show a positive match. Two law enforcement officials briefed on the matter have just confirmed to CNN. We're going to have more on that in just a moment. Also this...
It could be anybody. Hey! A total coincidence! Wrong place, wrong time. Everybody calm the fuck down. It's really fucked up. Free my boy Luigi!
Mangione is still behind bars in Pennsylvania
doing?
after a judge denied him bail. Before his court appearance, that was yesterday, he
had gloves? No, dude, he wasn't wearing gloves. No, he quite literally was not wearing gloves. Some of you guys are... I can't tell if some of you guys are like memeing. They showed you edits on Fox last night. That's amazing.
yelled and struggled against officers once he turned and saw that the media was standing outside the courthouse. And police now say a notebook that they found on him has a so-called to-do list in it from before the killing, as well as a reported reference to deciding not to use a bomb to target the victim so he would...
Bro, this guy literally is a go-getter. Like, I can't believe we are yelling at people now for being go-getters. Like, he's a real type A personality, dude. What? I mean, look. Why did he write that? Okay, first of all, I think we just had a conversation about how it's not weird to have notes like that on your notes app, on your phone. So I think, you know, to each their own, okay? To each their own. I think you got to fucking cool it a little bit with whatever people decide to write in their fucking notes app. All right?
Not, quote unquote, kill innocents. Also new this morning, disturbing video of what appears to be wanted posters popping up around New York City for other health executives. All of this as the suspect's lawyer is now speaking out about offers they say they've received to pay from outside to pay for his legal fees.
Obviously, my client appreciates the support that he has, but I don't know. I just, I'd have to look in, but it just doesn't sit right with me, really. The Supreme Court says, you know, all these rich billionaires can give all kind of money to candidates, and that's free speech. So maybe these people are exercising their right to free speech and saying that's the way they're supporting my client.
Joining us right now, CNN Chief Law Enforcement and Intelligence Analyst John Miller, CNN Law Enforcement Contributor Steve Moore, also here with me. John, this is your new reporting, and this is a big deal. This is the first positive forensic match that we know of. Walk us through what you've learned.
So, fingerprints collected at the scene of the Thompson murder from a plastic water bottle, from a discarded cell phone, the so-called burner phone, have now been compared against the arrest fingerprints taken by police in Altoona of the suspect. And yesterday they were able to make a match to the prints that they collected at the scene. Not a surprise in some regard, in that they had an individual allegedly with a gun and a silencer and a mask and those things, but it is the first scientific forensic match that joins the growing pile of circumstantial evidence that they can say, well, how else would it be someone if that fingerprint is here and he's there with that gun and so on. Now, there's more, which is DNA evidence still pending, ballistic tests still pending. Part of that is because the gun was recovered in Pennsylvania. To match that to be the same gun, they would have to obtain it, fire it, test it, compare the shell casings and the bullets. But this is a big deal.
It is a big deal because, to this point, that could be one of the things that you could hear from the suspect's attorney saying, you don't know if this is the guy. This wasn't me. We talked about this, right? Like, you could say this isn't me. This a guy with a mask and this, whatever. But this is.
I think there's something really funny about blurring the faces on the wanted posters of just like CEOs. It's publicly available information. Yeah, just fucking go online. You can figure it out, okay? I know they're trying to delete this information. They're trying to delete the web pages where you can see like the corporate executives of publicly owned companies. But for the time being, you can just straight up see where it is. Now, why are they this worried about the safety and security of the CEOs? If it's just a couple weirdos online that would never feel this way in public, why are they that worried about showing the faces of fucking public CEOs? It's so strange. Elizabeth Warren actually had a pretty solid quote here on this. But yeah.
Scientific connection, forensic connection between the two. Talk to me more about ballistics. Is it just a logistical kind of obstacle that needs to be overcome in order to get confirmation or not that the ballistics match, do you think? Or
the gun is actually the charge that they are holding him on in Pennsylvania. So that evidence needs to stay with him because, they are the ones who have him in custody, and he has not waived extradition, which basically says, I'm not going to New York, where they would then turn over all that evidence to New York City and then have them do those tests. But they understand, they are in it for the long game. They don't need to know that tomorrow or the next day. And it gives them more time to do the background investigation they're still doing, which includes mundane things, but very necessary things like completing the video canvas, tightening up that map where they can show a picture of him almost through every step of his New York journey.
I want to get to more of that, but Steve, let me bring you in on this. Just
Creeps.
The importance of what...
Creeps. That's creepy. You don't have to do that. You should stop doing that right now. That's creepy. You know what I mean? That's just weird, man. That's weirdo behavior. Leave him alone. Leave him alone. Ew. There's a word for that. It's illegal. It's called stalking. Okay? It's called stalking, chat. Is he gonna get the life sentence? Bro, they're gonna throw the book at this motherfucker at this point. Okay? I'll just say it like this. There are a lot of conspiracies running rampant right now with like 285, the number. And as you guys know, I think like recognizing numerical patterns is a telltale sign of schizophrenia. I will say personally, or 286, sorry, not 285. I will say a lot of people are crazy. And that's it.
What John Miller has learned about this fingerprint match.
Yeah, as we've learned, something can look like a slam dunk case, but a lawyer can find just niches or cracks in any kind of strong case. And what they're doing now is filling up the cracks. They're eliminating any doubt before they go to trial that this is the person who committed this crime. He's already fighting. He's already shown what he's going to do. He's going to fight every single motion, even a perfunctory extradition motion. So he isn't.
This is such a strange thing to say, by the way, because, like, yeah, no shit. Yeah. He should. Everyone should. Like, I don't understand this idea. Like, even if you're fucking dead to rights, even if they got you dead to rights, you still should. Why wouldn't you? The entire system is designed to allow you to get off on process. Like, that's the job of a lawyer. Yeah, it's called exercising your fucking rights, you know?
Going to go quietly on this. So the police are obviously dotting their I's and crossing their T's.
For sure. And John, something that we've talked about, and I guess it still remains, you know, there are so many questions that remain. And I'm wondering if this notebook that we're learning more about kind of adds to this picture is, how did this guy know that the CEO was going to be where he was going to be when he was? Is that where the line of thinking is in investigating how we learn more about that?
There are clues. I mean, you know it because you've been by there, but that New York Hilton Hotel takes up, you know, half of a full city block. Yeah. It has doors all the way down 53rd Street and all the way down 54th Street, and a front door and a rear driveway. That's like 20 entrances you would have.
Well, I mean, it's too big. It's big then. It's big. He could have just randomly touched a doorknob. You know what I mean?
To cover to know where is this guy going to enter the hotel. But you would also have to know, what if he is going to enter from this side, because I have learned he's staying at the hotel across the street. How would you know that? He gives us an oblique reference in the 3-page note that we've loosely called the manifesto, where he says, you know, this wasn't that difficult. It was a combination of social engineering and computer-assisted design, an engineer term, CAD he referred to it as. But I think what he's telling us there on the social engineering side is, this is what people do when they create an email, you know, a spoof email or a phone call saying, you know, I have a delivery, which, you know, where do I bring that, posing as somebody else. He's suggesting that he learned intelligence information on his target by doing that kind of thing. But then when you get out of the note and into the spiral notebook, and he acknowledges this in the note as well. He said, you know, my electronics you're going to find are pretty locked down, but in the spiral notebook you'll see to-do lists and other notes. Some of those notes are theoretical notes about targeting and, you know, what is the just way to commit such a crime. He talks about Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber, and how if he modeled after him, a bomb in a shareholders conference could kill, you know, innocent people. Same on the street. But he talks about.
It is pretty crazy that every new information that I've heard about this guy it hasn't led me to hate him. You know what I mean? Like, he's clear-eyed. He's like, he has a decent conscience on the matter. He is demure. He's mindful. The media is doing a piss poor job of presenting him as like a bad dude, if that's their goal. Maybe this will. Is it the beer bottle one? Yeah. No, it won't. It makes him look cool as fuck. Innocent people at a shareholder conference? No, there are. No, it's an uncontrollable. It's a bomb is not controllable. Like, there are a lot of unknowns. You can cook it too hard. Like, you're not, guys. Why do you think I talked about the terrorism angle when talking about the exploding walkie-talkies? Because there are people that are going to be in the vicinity of your target that you have no control over. It's an uncontrolled environment. There can be secondary explosions. There can be random workers that are, innocent and just working in the room. Think about what happened with the beepers. So apparently Mangione, who the entire political establishment has been very willing to condemn, showed more restraint than a genocidal government that same establishment has unconditionally given billions of dollars to. Yeah. Shinzo Abe's killer came to the same conclusion. He was using a pipe bomb, but decided that was too risky, so he built the doohickey. Yeah. It's also almost impossible to get a bomb there. I don't think so. I mean, I think that if there's a will, there's a way. You know what I mean? I would have told you that it's impossible to time the fucking CEO's morning walk up to the conference and figure out exactly which door he's going to come out of. But he was able to do that. I'm telling you, I mean, this is wild, but like, he very clearly was like, I don't want to kill like random people. I want some targets.
About, shooting being the more precise way to take on his target. In one line, he says, and what better way to take out the CEO than to shoot him at his own, quote, bean counters conference.
An investor conference is exactly what you could say that is.
Right.
And Steve, what do you think? There's so much that is coming out. I mean, this reporting from John is most significant about the forensic that they're now positively IDing. What questions do you have that remain now, Steve, and where you would say, leaning on your experience with the FBI, where you think this investigation focuses a lot of its energy now?
Well,
we have to remember, just like Shabiba, all these CNN fucks are millionaires, are making 6 figures yearly. The producers who decide the angle, etc., all are part of the same class. It's not that simple. The shooter himself comes from a very wealthy family. I make more money than the fucking average CNN anchor. There's a difference. They are tasked with undermining the truth. They are tasked with defending the established hierarchy. That's it. Like, she's not a capital owner. She's a wage laborer. Her job is, her job gives her a salaried wage. I think this is more so a matter of like what you're tasked with. Defending capital in the interest of capital, in the interest of corporations, or even just the pre-existing social constructs, and deflecting the attention away from why people are angry is her primary concern. It's not necessarily her her net worth that causes her to feel this way. There are some who operate on that boundary. I think like the likes of Ben Shapiro or whatever. But it's really interesting to think because Bill Burr, also rich. You know what I mean? Bill Burr is a rich guy. He gets it. I'm a well-off guy. I get it. I understand it. I think it's more so about being out of touch with the average person. Or rather, not necessarily being out of touch with the average person, but instead, defending the preordained, pre-established hierarchies that you are tasked with defending. So your logic, if you're angry, it gives you the right to kill CEOs. Sick take. No, that's not what I'm saying at all. But I think the coverage of this the coverage of this so far from the media has been, the people are angry, but we don't understand why, and they shouldn't be angry. And even if they are, well, it's just like a marginal number of people that are angry. It's not actually the broader, the larger swaths of society. It's just like random lefties that are yelling. And while I don't think that killing a random healthcare CEO is going to be the solution, or that vigilante justice is good, I don't think that at all. I'm simply more interested in not just looking at this with like, well, murder isn't good. Like, I think that's a simple take. I think the more interesting analysis here is to recognize that that person is responsible for tens of thousands of deaths a year, and he gets paid to do that. And the invisibility of that death that is hidden under the way that our systems are designed is important to recognize. But because this kind of death and this kind of violence, this structural violence, is so pervasive that virtually every single American has at least one bad encounter with a healthcare provider, okay, with a healthcare insurance company, that they don't give a fuck that this guy got killed. And I think that's worthy of examination. Understanding why people are upset is worthy of examination. Because we're looking at the singular murder of the CEO, not recognizing that that person, in the eyes of so many Americans, is responsible for the singular murder of their loved one, the pain and torment caused to their loved one, the medical bankruptcy of a loved one, or even themselves. You know? I hope you understand where I'm coming from with this. Instead of taking like the most blanket neurodivergent attitude, like, and being like, Hasan is saying it's fucking awesome. When someone is angry, they should be able to kill the person that has angered them. Do you get it? When my dad was dying in the hospital, his insurance refused to cover food for him. Every day I think about how hungry he must have been as he died. It keeps me up at night. He wasn't the CEO of Walmart. What do you mean? I mean, the CEO of Walmart is also responsible for a shit ton of awfulness, but I want to hear back from that chatter. I want to hear like what their response is to what I'm saying. But I think their goal in this circumstance was to simply vent and talk about how frustrated they are, perhaps because they have an immediate loved one who's an executive at a health insurance company or some shit, or maybe because they just cannot comprehend the argument that I'm making, or refuse to see it, and want to make it seem as though I'm saying something that is a straw man, something that is like easier to tackle. Maybe bait a clip. I don't think they're a bot. They've been subscribed for months at this point.
you've got a lot of the basic building blocks of this case already being nailed down. What I'd want to do is shore up the areas where you don't have direct knowledge yet, or at least they haven't said they have direct knowledge of the shooter's actions. For instance, before a shareholders conference like this, they're going to be setting up for about a week. They're going to do rehearsals and speeches and stuff. I would want to know where he was. We have cameras and everything on the day of shooting, but I'd like to see cameras around the entrances and find out whether Thompson did the same thing for several mornings, or whether maybe somebody in the hotel actually provided him information. I suspect he went a week early, and I suspect he was doing canvassing and surveillance that entire time.
It's interesting when you talk about that, because that's the backward building of this video canvas. He comes in on the 24th. That's like 10 days before the actual shooting. And where they have tracked him is he comes out of the Port Authority bus terminal and does not go to check into the hostel where he's going to stay. He goes straight with all of his bags to the Hilton Hotel, and he starts doing those walkarounds. But they also have him in a McDonald's, which we now know, I guess, was his preference for hanging out.
I was going to say his preferred stop along the way, for sure. John, thanks for running up and giving us the new reporting. Steve, thank you as always. It's good to see you.
Like, this is like, why would anybody want to do this? It's like they're denying claims and people are dying.
So this is very common kind of armchair analysis. John, your eyebrow is like up to here. You can't tell me you haven't heard something like this in the last couple of days.
No, look, there's plenty of anger and frustration in insurance companies, but do not lionize murderers or elevate psychotic screeds into a manifesto. This is insane. Don't make a folk hero out of this cat.
I texted
he
Jason back.
assassinated a CEO going to a thing. And you got a problem with the way insurance companies do business. There are a lot of righteous ways to handle it within the legal structure.
And I think
we're playing a little bit footsie with elevating this cat, and he doesn't deserve it.
Do you think he's but he's not being elevated by any particular thing. It's like the general internet. There's one voice you can point to saying you're the one who's turned him into a hero.
I mean, there's plenty of voices. You can go on the internet right now and find all manner of people who are lionizing this person or fetishizing him sexually or so on and so forth.
But mainstream media. Like, I don't think the mainstream media is doing erotic fan fiction of this guy. That is the thing that's happening.
Somebody who was trusted by the mainstream media just as soon as a few months ago, Taylor Lorenz was out there saying she felt joy when she heard about this. I mean, I agree with John. I think there's a culture in the United States right now that just doesn't, there's no respect for
there's no respect.
Laws. There's no respect for there's no respect for life. There's no respect for our cultural norms, and people believe that they should be able to take matters into their own hands. It's pretty ugly.
I think it works on always. I think it works on both sides. I think it works in this country in general. You said before we even got into this conversation, the internet is consistent. It's consistent with people who have things to say but really have nothing to say, and their opinions really don't matter. I think something's really interesting about, not even interesting. Did anybody see that movie, The Rainmaker? Did you guys ever see that movie back in the day, 1997?
Sort of lawyer, hero lawyer dramas.
John Grisham. Yeah. And it was not necessarily similar to this, but the lawyer was Matt Damon, and he was suing a big insurance company because they kept denying a claim. And in this particular case, the young kid died, and he had cancer, but his mom kept trying to fight the big insurance company, and they won in the end. And I heard you earlier today just a moment ago say, there are ways to go about this. For people who feel frustrated, and I'm not excusing Luigi at all, but I don't know if anyone feels like there are any legal ways to go about it. And I'm still unclear on what his actual motive is. He comes from this wealthy family. He had a back issue. We're hearing all of these different issues. And I'm like, what was he really trying to do and say? Not that we need to try to understand
that's my point.
Where are we at with him? What's going on with him? Who is he really? He's 26 years old. He graduated from an Ivy League college. His family has money. What exactly was his real motive? And I don't want to make it seem like we are trying to lionize him as a hero.
I think that's kind of what we're walking up towards here, though, right? We're trying to say, what was really the motive behind this? Sometimes it's just, crazy as crazy does, but with a gun it gets worse. But there are right ways. We got a lot of issues in our country. around corporations that don't seem to care about the little guy. We got a lot of issues with income inequality, but they're not solved by people writing manifestos, using a gun to murder a private citizen, and then all of a sudden people trying to get inside their head and figure out what the noble motive is or what particular thread he's pulling on the Unabomber's manifesto to make a consistent case against capitalism.
There's never an excuse for what he did, period. And I think when you see people online and in the media defending what he did as a result of their sentiment about large corporations, as a result of how they feel about the healthcare industry as a whole, I think that's a major problem. But it's not something that just started today. We've been seeing this go on, I think, for a very, very long time. And it's not the first time, and I'm sure Geraldo can speak to this, looking back to some of the cases from a decade or more ago, when we see people praise murderers, people like Jodi Arias, where they look at these murderers, they create fan clubs for them. And we're starting to see that already with Luigi Mangione being a physically attractive young man. And you see these women on TikTok and other places that are praising him because of what he looks like. And it's
even
but
that,
a lot of young women are posting that.
That's reasonable, I think. You want to dig the guy's six-pack, that's fine. But you fall into a trap when you get into the substance of his beef.
That's it.
Now he's succeeded. So now he's pulled us in. Now the focus is not on Luigi. It's on Thompson. It's on the victim and what the victim does and what the victim has done, with the deny and defund.
Do you think they should release this manifesto?
Oh, yeah, I don't mind.
Because some of the other shootings we've had in this country and other places,
yes.
we still don't know anything about the person who shot at Trump. We still don't know much about the person who committed that atrocity at the Christian school in Nashville. There's a lot of shootings.
The Las Vegas mass shooting we know nothing about.
There's a lot of things we are hidden from us. And then this guy, Geraldo, shoots, and we know more in 5 minutes about him than we know about all these other people. And I wonder why that is.
But the manifesto, remember, was released before we had the perpetrator. So you have the manifesto. That's how they got the Unabomber. The brother reads the manifesto, recognizes the brother's style of Harvard.
But there's a protocol generally.
John, hold on 1 second. Let me jump in here. I'm really glad you brought that up because David Kaczynski has been quoted. Someone reached out to him to say, how do you feel about this idea that he's alluding to your late brother's comments, and he basically said, it gives me a great deal of personal pain to think my brother's actions have in any way contributed to influencing a man like this to kill an innocent human being. I bring this up because I can't think of anything with kind of a longer legacy and tail on the dark corners of the internet than the Unabomber's manifesto, which many shooters across various political ideologies have cited or are in that world who still quote from it and still read it.
But there are people who take dark inspiration from Columbine. Look, generally there's a protocol around mass shootings, right? We just call them the shooter. Second of it, we don't publish the manifesto for reasons of elevation. Now, if manifestos are outlined, particularly in some mass shootings where there's something that's already out there, then, you can read it, but you don't elevate it. You don't
But Scott
dignify
just made a
and start
point where he
fetishizing.
said, how come there's ones we don't know? And you said it with this kind of question mark, right?
Usually it's whether
But there are
into the
things
idea.
about this story that feel very auspicious, and so people are attracted to it. I'm not saying that it's the media's fault. That's so easy. But everyone started, wait, who was this guy? Is he attractive? He pulled down his mask. There were all these little breadcrumbs, and it makes it feel like we're elevating this guy, but we're not. Well, this isn't a typical, and I don't want to say a typical shooting. I don't want to say anything like that. But this story, for whatever reasons, hit home for a lot of people, for better or for worse. We're not suggesting that this guy is great for what he did, but it just did. My best friend tells a story about when her father got dementia at the top of COVID. She had to literally fight tooth and nail day and night for weeks so that they would not deny his claim. So she's interested in it. People are interested because this is something that is happening. Not excusing it.
It has nothing to do with the assassination.
It has nothing to do with the assassination. We're not giving him substance, but we are talking about something that people are interested in. And if you can't deny the healthcare is an issue in this country.
I'm not denying that at all. I'm just saying that we're walking right up to the line.
Yeah, I think it's very difficult for people to start talking so heavily about healthcare now when 2 weeks ago nobody was doing that, or most people in the media weren't doing that. And so it feels a little bit difficult.
Because Luigi has succeeded.
Exactly.
Well, stop calling Luigi, the shooter, right? I
They're mad.
apologize.
Don't humanize them.
look, we should be talking. People
just
are
like
pissed
saying
off,
Luigi.
and who doesn't? In fairness, but people are really frustrated at the cost of insurance and how it adds to the affordability crisis in their daily lives. That's something we should be talking about.
But we shouldn't wait till someone gets
we can talk about
murdered to be talking about it. That's the problem I have.
And
we spent 3 whole days on healthcare before we even knew who the shooter was. They're being so deliberately obtuse when people started discussing this shit. It was minutes before. It was minutes after the shooting. Yeah.